returned that transformer to the people. And the people are suffering. The schools there, Gatei Secondary, Gatei Junior Academy, and of course Gatei Primary, they did not do the exams because the exams are printed in schools, Mr. Speaker, and the schools have no electricity. Animals are suffering because the farmers use chaff cutters and they use electricity. Mr. Speaker, the water, they don't have water in their home because they use electricity to pump water, Mr. Speaker. Insecurity is also another issue. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the things that we are saying. Somebody is seated somewhere, he's mandated to do something, and he's not doing it. I would even suggest that the CS in charge of this energy department to have his home disconnected with electricity so that he can understand what my people are going through. Or even the PS right now, his home and his people's home should be disconnected with electricity. 2 months without electricity, Mr. Speaker, is too much. Even 1 day without electricity. Mr. Speaker, to preserve these wetlands, I'm talking about Ondiri Swamp, I'm talking about Siani Swamp, Mr. Speaker, we should have buffer zones. Buffer zones is before you get there, you're cleared. We have to check what you have so that we can avoid pollution, so that we can avoid grabbers who get in, Mr. Speaker, to go and in the name of preserving, they're taking land, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we should also have sustainable agriculture. I know, as it is in this report, some people have used it to cultivate. I was actually looking online. I've seen they have even taken the soil to make bricks for their houses, Mr. Speaker. So you can see they are not only draining the swamp, they're also taking away even the soil, Mr. Speaker. So probably within a few years, we will have no water if this report is not implemented fully. And Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, we have to support advocacy. Those groups that form in the village, the CBOs, that come up with initiatives to preserve and talk about these swamps, we should support them. Maybe even the county government should have a budget for such groups, because it means sometimes the county government is not aware. So they should have such kind of kitties so that they can help in the budgets of preserving these wetlands, Mr. Speaker. And as I conclude with that proverb from East Africa: never drain a river until it dries. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Dhango. Senator Mweni Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me an opportunity to contribute to this report on the Senate Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources. Mr. Speaker, this petition involves people from my county, and some of them migrated from our neighboring county, represented by Senator Vomabe here, Senator Kajwang. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the people who vote in Misambi, Mogonga, Nyaobe, are communities of Luo, Kisii. In fact, in Misambi polling station, I'm sure 3/4 of people in Misambi migrated from Kadongo. So, and if you go to Nyabambo, when I want a nice fish, when I'm in Nyamira, I go to Nyabambo market. That's where we get very good fish from Homa Bay. So it is a place that has demonstrated that two neighboring communities can live peacefully as Kenyans. I don't know that Senator Kalwale, you have such a thing in Kakamega, but as we have coexisted very, very peacefully with these brothers of ours from Luo Nyanza, they control 4 polling stations. They vote for me. I always lead in those 4 polling stations, and we have lived very well, Mr. Speaker. Senator Beatrice Oyomo can confirm that if she'd make some traces, she will find a few of our relatives residing either in Misambi, Nyaobe, or somewhere around there. So these are people you can call marginalized, you know. They are kind of marginalized people, We have been trying to push through a nomination. We propose names, but when things reach Nairobi headquarters, ODM, they miss out. So I hear them, and I really want the Senate to listen to them. The Speaker, I was trying to inform Senator Kalwale that if you read the prayers of the petitioners, they are not seeking consent to settle on this wetland. And if you went to page 11 of the report, you will see what they are seeking. Number one, this is what they are seeking. They want the Senate to assist so that there is a stoppage on destruction of the wetland and direct that the ecosystem, be preserved for future generations. Very progressive Kenyans. Prayer number 2, they want to stop the National Land Commission and the county government of Nyamira from subdividing the wetland. Very progressive Kenyans. 3, they want the Senate to direct the county government of Nyamira and the Ministry of Lands.
Senator Boni Karware, what is your point of order? Sorry, Senator Kongo.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry that I'm interrupting the Senator of Nyamira, but I would like him to help us. Understanding order number 105, Mr. Speaker, could the Senator table evidence that names of the residents of this region were forwarded to ODM headquarters, and these people were denied their political rights, that the party ODM is marginalizing these people? Could he table the evidence, substantiate, failing which he should withdraw and apologize? Because I come from a county, Kakamega, which is predominantly ODM, and ODM has demonstrated in Kakamega that they don't marginalize anybody. Could he clarify?
Mr. Speaker, Senator Halwale used to be a member of ODM. He ran away. I don't know why he's mourning more than the bereaved. He has no business in commenting on businesses of ODM. He used to be a member. He bolted. He ran away. Now that he has had something called broad-based government, he's trying to again warm up to ODM. We will deal with our issues, Mr. Speaker. We don't need any advice or any messages of comfort from Senator Halwale. That is meant to distract me. So the point I was making, Mr.
Sorry,
Speaker,
Senator Okongo Mugeni, Senator
Yes.
Beatrice Ogora wants to give you some information. I don't know whether you are
no, if
ready
it is to
take
inform
it
me,
up.
I'll be happy to be informed by Senator Beatrice Ogora.
Okay. Senator
Yeah, I just needed to inform Senior Counsel that you don't need to worry about the mention of ODM and any related stake of ODM, because that is the order of the day. That party, the party leader, is a name that must be part of the conversation of Kenya.
Resume. Senator Okongo Mugeni.
Yes. So just breathe in and out. You'll be hearing a lot about ODM, about the party leader, about him going to AU. Just get used to these things. They will occupy our spaces for a while now. So, Mr. Speaker, the point I wanted Senator Halwale to get is because I had him, during his contribution, he was trying to create the impression that these petitioners have approached the Senate so that they can get a piece of the cake from this wetland. Those are not the prayers in the petition. So I think that's what I wanted Senator Halwale to get. But number 2, Mr. Speaker, anybody invoking Article 119 of the Constitution and approaches the Senate needs to see that the Senate cares about the concerns of that cadre of Kenyans. I am saddened, Mr. Speaker, and have nothing against the chair of this committee, my friend, what's the name? My friend John Methu. But Speaker, when Kenyans have brought a petition of this nature and they are complaining that a public entity has encroached a wetland, in fact, that a public entity is trying to divert a river so that they can make a construction. The least that the people of Nyamira expected, Mr. Speaker, is that the Senate committee would physically go to the ground and assess the situation for themselves. It is sad, Mr. Speaker, that reading through the report, the committee merely relied on what they were told by NEMA, what they were told by the petitioners, what they were told by the county government. Mr. Speaker, I'll urge, with tremendous respect to my good friend Senator Methu, that next time a community as progressive as this one, that is seeking preservation of a wetland for the benefit of future generations, we make an effort and go to the ground, Mr. Speaker, so that we see the picture for ourselves. When we are preparing a report, we should be telling the Senate of the Republic of Kenya that we had the benefit of going all the way to Nyamira. We saw the activities being undertaken. We saw the current status of that wetland. And you can even take photos, Mr. Speaker. The people of Nyamira are very welcoming. We would prepare bananas for the senators. So I have a big concern, Mr. Speaker, that they did not make any effort, Mr. Speaker, to visit the county of Nyamira. That is a big...
Senator Chute is a member of this committee. Is it, Senator Chute? Are you a member? Sorry?
No, I'm not.
Because I saw as you are doubting that you visited. Can you confirm, Senator Miriam?
Is there any member? I don't think there is a member.
Is she a member of the committee?
You are a member?
Madam Sheikh.
You can confirm if you visited Nyamira. Maybe I didn't get it right.
Is it true that you did not visit?
No, Chair, Speaker, we have not visited Nyamira.
You can proceed, Senator Omgen.
Yeah, so Mr. Speaker, that was a very big oversight on the committee, and I hope you can revisit and make a physical visit to Nyamira. Two, Mr. Speaker, and Senator, I think she has left the House, Senator Dulo, I think maybe Senator Chute, who come from counties where we have community land. We want community land to be used for the benefit of the people who reside in those counties. And if you read the report, the committee confirms that this is a community land, gazetted with a title under the county government of Nyamira, Mr. Speaker. But the prisons people, Mr. Speaker, have come, taken over the land. If you read through the report, they are even diverting a river, Mr. Speaker, to create way for a construction of a prison. I mean, how can we as a government, how can we as a country allow a government department to be the one that is destroying our ecosystem? I mean, are we a normal country, Mr. Speaker? Are we people in uniform, people carrying guns, invading our wetland, Mr. Speaker, and then diverting a river, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Njagi, who taught me geography in my high school, told me it takes many years for a river to change its course. And it must change its course through a natural happening, not through physical activities, Mr. Speaker. And I expected this committee to make a very strong recommendation, Mr. Speaker, that the activities being undertaken by the prisons should stop, cease, forthwith, Mr. Speaker. We cannot allow prisons to come to Nyamira and destroy our springs. It's not right, Mr. Speaker. And this name, Senator Kajwang will tell you that we borrowed it from Homa Bay. We call the stream Kamoti Water Spring. We borrowed it from Homa Bay, Mr. Speaker. Our chief, who retired, my good friend, Chief Ontita, came from Homa Bay. But he was our chief in Misambi, which is in Nyamira if you look at the boundaries, Mr. Speaker. So how can we allow prisons to come and divert Kamoti Water Spring and start constructing a prison, Mr. Speaker, and they don't have a title If you read through, Mr. Speaker, the committee has made a clear finding that not even the county government of Nyamira has given any allotment letter to the prisons department. They are using their guns, Mr. Speaker, to come and take over our wetland, Mr. Speaker. This is something that we must strongly condemn. Mr. Speaker, if you read the Constitution, because I was told, Mr. Speaker, when I was in school that the Constitution is our supreme law, and we all must abide by the provisions of this Constitution, Mr. Speaker. The Constitution clearly states in Article 63, Mr. Speaker, that the only way public land can be used is if it has been transferred from a specific community by way of a legal process to be used for a purpose that benefits the local community. We know the prisons can be, a service that is beneficial to the community, but it cannot be at the expense of destroying our environment. And I want to make an appeal to the national government to read our Constitution very, very clearly, Mr. Speaker, and understand, Mr. Speaker, that they have an obligation, Mr. Speaker, to protect our environment. I've seen the recommendations in this report. Everything is directed to the county government, Mr. Speaker. Nothing is mentioned about national government. But if you go to the article on land in chapter 5, the chapter on land, Mr. Speaker, Article 69, as a sub-heading, obligation in respect of the government. And it states that the state, not the county government, it says the state shall, that's a mandatory word, shall ensure sustainable utilization, management, and conservation of the environment. So I want to understand, which cabinet secretary is this who has allowed prisons to destroy our catchment in Nyamira, contrary to what the provisions of the Constitution say, Mr. Speaker? It's written there, the word used is mandatory, Mr. Speaker. F says that the state again shall eliminate activities. It says activities that are likely to endanger the environment. The activities of the prisons department in Nyamira area, Esiani wetland, is endangering the environment, Mr. Speaker. I expected the committee that is led by Senator John Methu to call out the government for failing to protect the environment, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if you read this report, most parts of this country, Mr. Speaker, have what we call water, I think they call it water stress, because the water tables are really deep. But in this particular area, Mr. Speaker, the report confirms that the water table in this area is very favorable, Mr. Speaker. So if we allow the prisons and others to destroy this catchment area, we are not being fair and kind to the people of Nyamira. Mr. Speaker, the committee has made an observation that there has been a lot of dumping. Mr. Speaker, there is a committee that is chaired by Senator Kajwang. And we have been among the few counties that have been privileged to receive climate change money to the county government of Nyamira. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead to my governor, Governor Amos Nyaribo. Amos Nyaribo, Mr. Speaker, comes from this ward, this Magwawa ward. This is his ward. This is where he votes, Mr. Speaker. He should also be ashamed this morning, Mr. Speaker, that he has left the prison's people to come to his own ward and destroyed the wetland, Mr. Speaker. But more worrying, Mr. Speaker, is that the climate change money that has gone to the county of Nyamira, and maybe Senator Kajwang should be able to confirm the figures, but I think we have received to the tune of 150 million. Yes, 150 million, Mr. Speaker. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that this money has not ended up in the pockets of people in the county government of Nyamira. Because in this country, Mr. Speaker, every minute, People are exchanging bribes. National government, county government, Mr. Speaker. You receive money from a donor to assist in climate, you pocket the money as a governor with your officers, Mr. Speaker. Why can't he do steps, Mr. Speaker, to divert, not even to divert, to direct the climate change money to go and rehabilitate this wetland, Mr. Speaker? Because we want money that is being given to us by our donors to impact on the lives of the people who reside in our respective county governments, Mr. Speaker. So the idea of people dumping, it's because we don't have, it's a shame. I come from Nyamira, but we don't have a sewer system in Nyamira, Mr. Speaker. All that we do is to dig our own septic tanks. There is no sewer, Mr. Speaker, in the county government of Nyamira. So I hope, as a way of mitigating the concerns that have been raised by the people of Misambi, these are people that are under the jurisdiction of Governor Nyaribo. He should also move with speed, Mr. Speaker, do something to ensure that this wetland is protected, utilize money that has been given by our donors to help. Finally, there is a recommendation that the land court in Nyamira expedites resolution of the ongoing land dispute cases touching on this wetland, Sian wetland. I hope, Mr. Speaker, the resident judge who is in Nyamira, without trying in any way to influence how he should rule, should at least make a determination on the cases that are pending before the Nyamira Environment and Land Court, so that these good citizens who are very keen in protecting the environment for the future generation can have trust and faith in our institutions. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to see what I saw in Meru. We don't want this dispute to be referred to the Wazees in Nyamira, the way the dispute in Meru was referred to during Cheke, Mr. Speaker. We have our courts so that those who approach them can get solutions. If we wanted to go to our Wazee, we can go to our Wazee, but for us to go to court, it means that even the efforts, the interventions by our Wazees have failed. So we don't want the judge, without directing him, to invoke what I saw in Meru and refer this dispute to Jurinjaka. Let him make a determination, and whoever receives an order from court directing them to do anything should comply. So I support this motion, but I hope I can get a second bite on it to have some amendments so that issues that I've raised can be addressed. And also I urge the committee to consider that they make a visit, physical visit to Nyamira.
In 1 minute to conclude, he represents Nyamira.
Yes. So I pray, my Lord, Mr. Speaker, that this committee should make a determination that this petition is so important that it necessitates them visiting Nyamira physically to ascertain the physical status of this wetland and also report one-on-one on the activities being undertaken that pose a threat to this wetland. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Otieno Kajwang, on this motion. Oh, okay. Okay, fine. You are the only one who was Senator willing to contribute. But I understand you are the one who seconded the motion. So you had that chance also to to talk to that motion when you were seconding. You lost the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate those senators who has contributed to these petition reports. Mr. Speaker, I raise to reply on this petition. Mr. Speaker, there are 3 prayers, questions. On all of them, we have engaged the petitioner, the Ministry of Environment, NEMA, and everyone, and we came up with these reports. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to petition, as a committee, we have almost, I can confirm the number, but so many petitions. And each one of them requests that we have to go on the ground to visit and see. But, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the package of the finance, it will be very difficult for each of the petition. If each petition we go and county visit, that's why the reason. But we have taken the request of Senator Nyamira so that at least we can show on the issue of that one. Mr. Speaker, we have engaged some institution. We have given a recommendation that the county government of Nyamira, in collaboration with the Ministry of Land and Public Works and the Land NLC, should conduct a public participation exercise to establish clear and correct boundaries marked by beacon to prevent encroachment of each protection of the wetland. Mr. Speaker, also Kenya Prison Service, in collaboration with NEMA, under the guidance of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change and Forestry, develops, implement a comprehensive environmental management plan to prevent environmental degradation and manage the waste effectively and promote sustainable practice within the prison operations and ensure compliance with all relevant environmental regulations, improving the current condition of the wetland. Mr. Speaker, I think all the information has been raised, but NEMA and the ministry and the county government should also, county government of Nyamira should also establish, monitor and reporting the framework to track the progress of the conservation and restoring and conduct a regular site visit and assess to ensure that the compliance with EMP and other conservation measures, documenting and sharing results with all stakeholders, including the Senate Standing Committee of Land. Mr. Speaker, with all that comments and from senators, I pray, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to the Standing Order 663, I request that you defer the putting of question on this motion to a later date. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Therefore, because we have no enough column to put the question, so we defer the putting of the question to a later date. But I will advise my senior colleague here, Senator Kongo Mogeni, to work closely with the Secretariat so that the issues that he has raised can be captured in the resolutions of this motion. But for sure, it was very, very necessary for the committee to visit this swamp and to visit the community. So Senator Kongo Mugeni, liaising with the Secretariat, we can be able to align your interest or your issues that you have raised. What do you clarify? No, there is nothing to clarify.
Mr. Speaker, while I appreciate the concerns and interests of the Parliamentary Service Commissioner, Mr. Speaker, you remember when the issue of budget to committees, Mr. Speaker, I wish I could capture your attention. While I appreciate,
I'm able to multitask, Senator Chalagai, so I was.
But men, according to research, Speaker, men cannot multitask. But anyway, that's beside the point. Mr. Speaker, I know, Commissioner is our employer, and when he speaks, we must listen. But Mr. Speaker, you remember, and you are the chair of Liaison. I don't have the privilege of sitting at Liaison, but the information we have had is that committees have had to cut down their budgets. So does it mean maybe the committee did not have enough resources to be able to do county visit to the specific area of Siani? And therefore, even as you direct, you should direct that the Secretariat or your office ensures that the committee is facilitated to do a fact-finding mission to the site. And it is also, I'm sad, because the person who is in charge of our budget, Senator Okongo Omugeni, who is a commissioner with Parliamentary Service, is asking us the hard question why the committee did not visit. Yet he knows he has not given us enough resources. You remember many things were being cut, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chalagai, Senator Kongo, I wanted to raise this matter, but you have.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to inform Senator Chalagai, and he's a very good student of mine. You know, I worked very hard to ensure that he's admitted to the role of advocates, and he's doing very well. But, it's good for us to have our facts. You know, Mr. Speaker, the people who appropriate money for us is the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly. Okay? So the problem is not the Commission, Mr. Speaker, because when we know the facts, we are able to argue our case properly, Mr. Speaker. From our end, Mr. Speaker, the Commission makes an adequate request, okay, or a wish list for the Senate. Even if I shared with us, as senators, our wish list to the Budget and Appropriation Committee, if we had gotten if our wish list was granted, Mr. Speaker would have had enough money for Senate to run its activities.
Senator Kongo Mugeni, let me help you.
Yes.
You don't need to explain so much because from, he has mentioned that I chair a liaison committee. Yes. And it is on record. So I want to confirm that there is no time that this committee on land came to liaison committee requesting for more resources to visit Nyamira, and the liaison committee was unable to facilitate, right? So I think the committee still has a chance to do that visit. Senator Kongo Omugeni, you can request that visit, the committee to visit officially. Yeah, so that you can also be involved to sort out that swamp. Personally, I have a lot of interest on environmental matters because that's my background. So that swamp shouldn't be protected, Mr. Senator Kongo Omugeni. Let's go to the next order. We go back to order number 8.
Order number 8, motion, report of the Select Committee on County Public Accounts on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of West Pokot County Assembly for the financial year 2018-2019, and the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Isiolo, Kiambu, Kitui, Marsabit, Narok, Nyamira, Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, and Murang'a County Assemblies for the financial year 2019-2020. Resumption of debate interrupted on Tuesday, 30th April 2024.
Senator Moses Kajwang, you are moving this motion, and you have a balance of 50 minutes. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on 30th of April 2024, I had moved the House to adopt the motion on the report of the Select Committee on County Public Accounts on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of 10 county assemblies, which is Isiolo, Kiambu, Kitui, Marsabit, Narok, Nyamira, Trans Nzoia, and West Pokot county assemblies. I have a balance of 50 minutes, and I intend to utilize about 5 to 10 minutes in moving this motion. Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank you for indulging the committee and indulging me, because this matter was on the order paper last week. And last week, with your leave, I had gone somewhere else to represent the Speaker on a climate change-related issue. And Mr. Speaker, while I was away, the shareholding of the nation was also rejigged, and now we have a nation where all stakeholders and all shareholders are sitting on the table. Mr. Speaker, as I said when I was moving this motion, for a long time the Senate had not considered the reports of county assemblies because we were concentrated and focused on the county executives. The first chair of the Public Accounts Committee, the distinguished senator from Kakamega, Senator Boni Khalwale, laid a firm ground, laid firm rules that we have followed to date in consideration of reports of the Office of the Auditor General. And I agree with the rules and the algorithm that they established, because county executives take 80%, if not 90%, of county budgets. And sometimes you go for Pareto's principle. Go for the area where you're going to have the biggest impact. But along the way, Mr. Speaker, we realized that a lot of the corruption and bad governance is condoned by weak county assemblies. If there is corruption in the county assembly, there is no way they are going to manage corruption. And so the committee took an interest in the financial statements of county assemblies. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report that today, again, interestingly, Kakamega County Assembly is the only county assembly that is up to date in consideration of the reports of the Office of the Auditor General. And I want to congratulate the chair of the Public Accounts Committee and the entire Committee of Public Accounts in Kakamega County. I think it's called Honorable Mahelo, and the minority leader, Maitsia. And they've been with us every time we are holding these meetings, and they've built the capacity to be able to look at these reports. We just want them to look at them objectively, not to look at them with the governor in mind, or not to look at them with the speaker or clerk in mind. That is a one success story that I have seen. But even though they are considering the reports, it does not mean that there is no corruption and financial mismanagement in those entities. And I want to encourage most of the other county assemblies to be up to date, because if Kakamega can do it, then the rest of the county assemblies can do it. The reports before us, Mr. Speaker, cover West Pokot County Assembly. West Pokot County Assembly is a mess, is a complete mess, Mr. Speaker. And sometimes the Senate seconds staff to go and manage county assemblies as clerks. West Pokot, for the period under consideration, the clerk of the county assembly was a staff of the Senate who had been seconded there. Mr. Speaker, he was not the best ambassador of the Speaker, because if you look of the Senate, because if you look at the report of the Auditor General, for the formative years of West Pokot County Assembly, they were not the best. And we are working hard to encourage and to empower them to clean up the messes so that they are able to oversight the many stalled projects in West Pokot County Executive. The other assembly whose reports you have laid today is Isiolo County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, 3 months ago, the Senate went to Isiolo County to carry out oversight of projects. We were to be hosted by the Isiolo County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the Speaker of Isiolo County Assembly disappeared, the clerk disappeared, all the members of County Assembly disappeared. We were only left with the Sergeant-at-Arms. And I want to thank those gallant Sergeant-at-Arms, because when everyone else ran away, the Sergeant-at-Arms were there to receive us and to make sure that at least we had a bottle of water. Isiolo County Assembly has got a leadership crisis. We cannot condemn all the members of the County Assembly, but the leadership of this assembly, particularly the speakership. The last time they appeared before the Public Accounts Committee, Mr. Speaker, we had to ask the Speaker for Isiolo to apologize for utterances that he made in public, failure to which he would be ejected from the meeting. He chose not to apologize, and we subsequently ejected him. And in his mind, he thought that that would stop us from proceeding with the scrutiny. We went ahead with the scrutiny because the clerk was there, and we uncovered gross violations, Mr. Speaker, of the PFM. A county assembly reporting close to 96 million shillings as other payments without justification or without a breakdown. And so, Mr. Speaker, the report that you have laid for Isiolo is of a past period when this speaker was not the speaker, but things are getting worse rather than improving in Isiolo. In Kiambu County Assembly, Mr. Speaker, Kiambu ought to be close to Nairobi and should perhaps through osmosis or other processes, should be able to pick the best practices from Nairobi. The Kiambu County Assembly, when Governor Kimani Wamatangi appeared before us, it was clear that the Kiambu County Assembly had never considered a single Auditor General's report. And we felt that Kiambu was punching below its weight, and that is why the Assembly itself has got quite a number of financial mismanagement issues. In Kitui, Mr. Speaker, Kitui, we have seen some marked improvement in the leadership and financial administration of the County Assembly, and we hope that the recommendations that we have put in here and the suggestions that we made to them when they appeared before us will position the Kitui County Assembly so that they can be at the same level as their senator. The senator for Kitui is very vigilant and is very keen on oversight and proper financial management. We want our assemblies to reflect the capability, to reflect the ambitions of their respective senators. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, when I come to Nyamira County Assembly, I am disappointed that one of the finest senators in this House, or one of the finest legislators in the history of our parliament, comes from Nyamira, Senator Okongo Omoge. But if you look at the County Assembly, the way it is managed and the way it is run, I do not know which pool they picked the leadership of the Assembly and whether it was a different pool from which they picked the senator for Nyamira. Because, Mr. Speaker, Nyamira County Assembly appeared before the Senate, and the senator for Nandi was chairing, and every matter was unresolved and referred to the EACC. And when the vice chair, sitting on behalf of the speaker, gave directives for Nyamira County Assembly to go and correct and give authority to incur and accounting officer roles to the clerk, they went home and fired the clerk, effectively showing us the middle finger. Mr. Speaker, we must ensure that our assemblies are a reflection of the senators here. I think it's only Senator Boni Khalwale who could be proud.
Mr. Chair
that
of CPAC, that last sentence, can you kindly remove it from the answer? Replace with Ambeta Wandi. Because you are doing so well, I don't want the answer to have that something I've mentioned.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw and apologize. As I explained in the earlier case
what have you been doing? What have you been doing?
The offensive words. Because if I mention them, then I'll give further effect to the offense.
Okay.
So, Mr. Speaker, I apologize and withdraw for being offensive. As I mentioned when we were considering the impeachment for the governor for Meru County, Mr. Speaker, and I'm informed that Njuri Ncheke has refused to be drawn into those shenanigans. Mr. Speaker, I think in Suba, then I translate to Luo, then I translate to English. So sometimes when I speak in English, my words can be taken out of context. Mr. Speaker, I had committed to withdraw and apologize unreservedly on the comments that had made that seemed to indicate that there was no lucid person in Meru County. And as we had agreed, I will bring a proper formal statement so that the record is set clear, and I'm always willing to abide by your directives, Mr. Speaker. Now, Nyamira County Assembly, we must ensure that we continue whipping them, and we must ensure that we continue guiding them, because I do not think that the problem is with the members of the County Assembly. The problem mostly resides in the County Assembly Service Board, where you find a few people with impunity who think that the money that the Assembly gets, they should first take their share before the members of the County Assembly get the services that they deserve. For the period that we are tabling the report, Mr. Speaker, the operations of Nyamira County Assembly were not that bad. The report that we have is not terrible, but in the last 2 or 3 months, because my committee has been very current, we are now dealing with financial statements up to the financial year 2022, and in September we'll be getting to the reports for the financial year 2023. My committee will continue to engage with Nyamira so that whatever recommendations that we made to Nyamira County Assembly are followed and are not sabotaged, and the mandate and authority of the Senate is not undermined. Mr. Speaker, another county assembly whose report we have here is Narok County Assembly. Our experience with Narok has been quite progressive, Mr. Speaker. It is an assembly that listens whenever we make suggestions to them, and it is an assembly that I have seen works closely with their senator. At the end of the day, the role of the assembly and the role of the Senate, there are a lot of intersections. There are a lot of concurrent mandate, concurrent jurisdictions. And so, as I was saying, pointing out, for example, in the case of Nyamira, we want Nyamira Assembly to pull up. The senator has set such a high bar, and I want the Assembly to aspire to that bar. Mr. Speaker, another assembly that we have here is Marsabit County Assembly. And Marsabit County Assembly, Mr. Speaker, we also noticed certain weaknesses that in their financial management systems. But the bigger weakness was their lack of ability or capacity to oversight the county executive. Mr. Speaker, since I've spoken a lot on this matter on the 30th of April, let me just summarize 3 issues. There's the issue of the Society of Clerks at the table. Mr. Speaker, the clerks who are sitting at the table here, they belong to a society. And in the county assemblies, the clerks also belong to the Society of Clerks at the table. It is a body that is registered, so it is not illegal, but it receives money from county assemblies. But their accounts are not audited. Any public funds must be audited. And we have declared that contributions to SOCAT by county assembly are illegal and are a contravention of the PFM Act. However, we have given SOCAT an opportunity to come and engage the Senate. And so, Speaker, unfortunately, 2 appointments that we have been so generous, we have cleared our calendar to allow SOCAT to come before us. They are the ones who have turned down our invitation. The CAF, County Assemblies Forum, is also another body that we've been liaising with on matters to do with the welfare of members of county assembly. And Mr. Speaker, CAF is not illegal. It is registered as a society. So there's nothing wrong with it. The only problem is when county assemblies contribute 3 million shillings to CAF, and 3 by 47, Mr. Speaker, you can see is clearly a lot of money. And that money is not audited. We don't get financial statements. We have a problem with that. And we have said that county assemblies must stop contributions to the County Assemblies Forum until we have sorted out the legal and regulatory issues and until the CAF accounts can be audited by the Auditor General. Again, the leadership of CAF is a speaker for Elgeyo Marakwet, Speaker Sebulei. I have repeatedly asked him to come before the Senate and told him that our committees are ready and willing to engage with them because members of county assemblies are our brothers and sisters. In fact, members of county assembly, 90% are persons of integrity, persons who are properly spirited, and persons who want good service delivery. What sometimes fails them is the leadership of the assembly, that entity that we put called the County Assembly Service Board. And sometimes they make decisions on contributions to CAF. And we have told Sebulei, we have told the speaker for Machakos, who's a vice chair, we have told several speakers and members of CAF, come and talk to the Senate. The Senate is ready, open and willing to engage you. If you don't want to talk to the Public Accounts Committee, go and talk to the Devolution Committee, chaired by Senator Abbas. Because I know Senator Abbas has been working on some legislation that would give effect and power to the County Assemblies Forum and the Society of Clerks at the table. Unfortunately, they have not appeared before me. I don't know whether in Senator Abbas' committee they have made presentations, but until that matter is resolved, those contributions to SOCAT and CAF shall continue to be declared as illegal and irregular. Finally, this Senate has allowed assemblies to undertake capital projects. In Isiolo, we went to see a county assembly chamber that is being put up. Unfortunately, as I said, the Speaker and the Clerk and everybody else disappeared. And we only remained with the Sergeant at Arms, and so we could only stare, we could only spectate. When we went to Turkana, Mr. Speaker, you do recall, they were putting up a grand county assembly chamber. A number of counties, we have allowed them through the Finance Committee, by revision of the ceilings, to put up those projects. Project management by county assemblies is very poor, Mr. Speaker, because there's a lot of duplication. They want to do things, they want to bring in competencies that already exist in the county executive. And whenever we make those approvals for county assemblies to do capital projects, we need to guide them appropriately so that they don't waste too much time in duplication and redundant things that could have best been done by the county executive or through shared services of the county executive. Mr. Speaker, the reports before you contain specific recommendations that will be communicated to the entities once adopted by the House. But I want to assure the senators that the committee that we are in, and where I am deputized ably by Senator Cherargei, we are closing the backlog. We are finalizing the reports for the election year, 2021-2022. And I want to assure this House that in September, we will be considering 2022-2023 for the time that the current governors are in office. And Mr. Speaker, you are a witness. You attended one of our meetings, and we are now able, for example, in the case of Meru, to close the years of Kiraitu Murungi so that we can now focus on the years of Governor Kawira Mwangaza. And I want to thank the senators who have attended our meetings for indulging us and for understanding the backlog that we've been in. That backlog has not been because of laziness, Mr. Speaker. Senator Khalwale, when he chaired this committee, for the first 2 years he could not do anything because governors were going to court, left, right, and center. If Kidero wasn't going to court, then it was Oparanya going to court. If Oparanya wasn't going to court, it was Mwangi Wairia going to court. And for 2 years, Mr. Speaker, it was a fight. No one wanted to subject themselves to the Senate. And so we have gotten to a point where the Supreme Court has made its decision on the matter, and they have no choice. They have no choice. They must subject themselves to the Senate. And what we want to do is to tighten the sanctions, Mr. Speaker. And if John Mbadi, the ODM chairman, becomes the CS for Treasury, Mr. Speaker, one of the first things we'll be asking John Mbadi to do is to invoke Article 225 of the Constitution and stop the transfer of funds to counties with serious financial problems. Because there is no need for us to pour money down a bottomless pit. And we'll be supporting the motion by Senator Dulo. But the Constitution puts that power in the hands of the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury. CS Ukuri Yatani tried to invoke it, but we frustrated it. CS Professor Njuguna Ndongo had no clue of what was going on. In fact, he never appeared before any of our committees. And so we hope that CS John Mbadi, hopefully, inshallah, will be a CS who listens to the Senate, will be a CS who is responsive to the needs of his colleagues, the politicians that he served with over the years. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request the distinguished senator from Nandi, none other than Senator Cherargei, to second and advise him that while he seconds, he should refrain himself from talking about the other members of the cabinet. Mr. Speaker, I beg
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that commitment to bring your accounts to the current governors. I think that is very good to the Senate. We want to not to flog which are ambiguous. So thank you very much for that commitment. As the chairperson, we will be very happy to have the current accounts for the current governors being prosecuted. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, as I rise to second, I want to indicate to my chairperson that there is no cabinet in place except a few people who are the moment cabinet. I thought they are still undergoing vetting. But I'm happy with the enthusiasm of my brother who is an ODM member because they're excited being part of the cabinet in the history. And that shows the intention of everybody wanting to join government. So, Speaker, as I rise to second, let me make the following observations. County assemblies, Mr. Speaker, sir, essentially are the primary oversight. But unfortunately, some county assemblies and MCAs continue to be gatekeepers of ineffective, moribund, and inefficient county executives across our nation, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm saying this with a backdrop that I want to send my special accolades to Wajir County Assembly for refusing to become Wajir County Executive rubber stamp of passing a budget that do not reflect the wishes of the people of Wajir. So, Speaker, while I don't condone that they went to an extent of running away with the mess, I agree with the principle of not allowing to pass a budget where allocation, first the office of the First Lady and Second Lady and PCS offices of the ladies have been scrapped. So I want to agree with members of County Assembly of Wajir County Assembly, and we want to see them becoming more enthusiastic, doing their job without fear on contradiction, Mr. Speaker. So I want to say, let all the MCAs, county assemblies be proactive in budget-making processes going into the future. It is their work under County Governments Act, under the Constitution, and therefore we hope to see MCAs taking their rightful place in ensuring oversight. Because many things, including yours of Garissa, would not have escalated to the Senate if the MCAs had done their job. So as much as we support them, we must also call upon them, Mr. Speaker, to do their job as per the Constitution, as per the devolution laws that have been set in place, so that we get a more value. And Mr. Speaker, the advent of JNC protest has brought some level of self-reflection, including county governments and national governments, Mr. Speaker. So I hope after all these issues that have been raised nationally are being resolved, we want also to see county governments doing their job, giving value for the money that we appropriate under the Constitution and under, as we even push, and the new CS nominee should be aware of Article 219 to ensure money is dispersed or on in time to county governments, so that when we hold them accountable, Mr. Speaker, it becomes easy, Mr. Speaker. I know the challenges, Mr. Speaker, as I go to the second substrata, is that MCAs might argue that their welfare is not taken care of. But we have done our best through the SRC. We have tried to push SRC to improve on the welfare of the MCAs, Mr. Speaker, so that they get enough resources and their own personal resources to go into the support of ensuring they do oversight, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, I'm happy also that for the first time there is goodwill of financial autonomy for the MCAs, so that the clerk of the county assembly, and those are some of the recommendations, legislative intervention as a committee, through the chairperson of our committee, to ensure we have financial autonomy to counties, so that the clerk have their own CRF account at the National Treasury and be able to sign their money for the expenses within the county assembly, the way Parliament of Kenya is done. Our accounting officers are known, Mr. Speaker. Although here it reached some point where some funny officers were being introduced and given some funds, Mr. Speaker.
What is your point of order, Senator Abbas? Sheikh.
I think I want to inform the Honourable Member, Honourable Segei, that what is going on in Wajir actually is actually not all the Assembly actually is in agreement with the whole process. As much as we appreciate at least the oversight they're doing, but what they're doing is actually more or less like a hooliganism, because breaking even their own shares, that the way they work from. The desk that they work from is where they're even breaking it. So, but of course they are asking for accountability and asking for a proper itemized budget. We'll commend them for that, but of course it's not the way they are behaving is not acceptable behavior that we'll be able to encourage for those members to do that kind of business, as you know, legislative elected members of MCAs. Thank you for that information.
Thank you, Abbas. Senator Cheruge.
Mr. Speaker, I think I said very categorically, and you can check my answer. I say I support accountability, but I don't support them running away with the mess. I think it is important so that we put perspective, and they should do it with vigor and enthusiasm, Mr. Speaker. I hope in the course of today's sitting or tomorrow, Senator Abbas, who is the Senator of Wajir will give us a personal or a statement so that he can put to perspective as understanding order 52 or 53 to tell us what really transpired. Because while we agree there is no need of breaking chairs and other things within the assembly, he should be able to give us that perspective going into the future. So, Speaker, the general, and therefore I was talking about financial autonomy. I think that is the last limb that I wanted to say, Mr. Speaker. Let county assemblies be given financial autonomy so that they have CRF. We get the clerk to become the accounting officer. Mr. Speaker, we are aware where governors decline to release money to county assemblies through CCM finance simply because they think MCAs have undermined or they have not done public relations exercise. Mr. Speaker, it's so sad. Whenever I work to my functions in counties, the person who does more public relation officer, the PRO of county government, is normally the MCA, Mr. Speaker. Yet the MCAs are supposed to do the oversight. They are not supposed to be telling us what the governor is doing. But you have reduced county officers to become cheerleaders, and you get MCAs telling us more what the governor is doing than what governor is doing and what governor should be saying they are doing. I don't know, in my county that is a situation. Maybe in Machakos or in Nyamira the story is totally different. But in silent tones, the MCAs have been telling us the reason we do this is so that we don't get denied of our allocation by CCM finance of respective county. So when we give financial autonomy to MCAs, I think now they'll be able to oversight. And you know the history of this parliament, that before our accounts were with the office of the president. Therefore, it means if you criticize the government, you could not get your pay. So, Speaker, even here in Parliament, we want to mirror what you are doing in Parliament to county assemblies. Although, constitutionally, I have seen in Parliament, and maybe the Commissioner will say, in his presentation later, if he will contribute, is that we have had a situation where the Secretary to Parliamentary Service Commission has been watered down. There is an office called Chief Accounting Officer or Accounting Officer somewhere in between the provided under the Secretary of the Senate, Bwana Jeremiah Nyegenya, Mr. Speaker. And that undermining, that person has more money. And I'll be bringing a substantive statement. Where did that office create? Yet the Secretary to the Parliamentary Service Commission is the clerk of the Senate. But some cartels or some individuals who are hell-bent to undermine the work of the Senate made sure they introduce another extra officer in between the accounting officer who should be the secretary to the commission, Bwana Jeremiah Nyegenya, Mr. Speaker. And as a parliament, we must take a position on it. And I want to challenge our commission representative. I asked them sometimes back, Mr. Speaker, and they told us that, you know, we are few in Parliamentary Service Commission. But you should bring it back to the people. Go back to the people. They should bring it back to Parliament. When we raised issues about the functionality, our capacity, Mr. Speaker of Parliament, some of us were told to write some silent letters and whisper to powers be that we have a problem with the lift, we have a problem with the aeration in our rooms. Mr. Speaker, our room, committee room number 8, in the new wing, our chairman normally struggles to breathe because there is totally no aeration in the room, Mr. Speaker. Our visitors, and you have visited, sir, we were together with you in Health Committee. You saw the visitors or our witnesses crammed up in a corner, Mr. Speaker. If, God forbid, if COVID was to come back, Mr. Speaker, with the small spaces that we are talking about, it is very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. You saw the invasion of Parliament the other day. I'm told they have used close to 100 million to do the repairs. But when you see the quality works of the seats, I highly doubt. I sat on one seat in the restaurant, Mr. Speaker. I almost collapsed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and you should be putting a perimeter wall.
Senator Cherokee, would you want to be informed by Senator Mugeni?
No, I am sufficiently informed. I am sufficiently informed. I can,
Is a senior counsel, you should...
If you ask me about the committee room number 8 used by CPAC, I know it because I have used it. Mr. Speaker.
Okay, what is your point of order, Senator Mugeni?
Mr. Speaker, any senator speaking before the House should be able to support the facts that he lays before this House. Senator Cherargei has stated that the Parliamentary Service Commission has spent 200 million to repair the damage that was caused by the Gen Z invasion of June 26th. Whereas, Mr. Speaker, Parliament is fully insured. It's Old Mutual that will undertake the repairs. So can he substantiate which Parliamentary Service Commission has spent the 200 million shillings to undertake repairs?
Senator Mugoni, just to correct you, the figure he mentioned was 100 million.
Oh, he didn't say 200.
Not 200, 100 million.
So can he substantiate where he got the information that PS is undertaking the repairs? Yet we have a comprehensive insurance cover that passes that obligation to all mutual insurance. So can he substantiate the allegation that PAC has spent 100 million to undertake the repairs, Mr. Speaker?
Senator Cherargei, can you substantiate or withdraw and go by the information provided by the Commissioner, Senior Counsel Mugeni?
Mr. Speaker, while I appreciate the enthusiasm of response of the Commissioner, Mr. Speaker, I need up to Tuesday so that I can provide. Not necessarily. I said, Mr. Speaker, the supervising body is Parliamentary Service Commission. The people who procured Old Mutual to provide insurance cover is the PSC. So, Mr. Speaker, let me finish kindly.
Okay, I'll let you
I'm
finish.
willing to substantiate by Tuesday and provide necessary facts because Old Mutual, as insurance, did not provide all the insurance cover. Because in the insurance policy of Old Mutual, it does not include attacks by GNC and protest.
So,
Senator, can I substantiate on Tuesday?
Yes, you can substantiate,
Okay.
but just to get, yes, that is what I wanted to clarify with you, that you would substantiate the amount of 100 million spent by PSC on refurbishment of Parliament following the destruction by the demonstrators.
No, Mr. Speaker, I have not said the PSC spent. I'll provide information on the issue of repairs. And you will notice in my information that some of the repairs was incurred by the PSC themselves, Mr. Speaker.
So the substantiate, what will substantiate is the sum of the repairs done by PSC amounted to 100 million.
Including the insurance Old Mutual, plus their policy document that they don't cover destruction of protest.
Very well, Senator. Please provide that information by Tuesday.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I was just explaining that we need to mirror what Parliament does because county assemblies are our small brothers and sisters, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so the issue of MCS, Mr. Speaker, we support them. The issue of salary review, personal emoluments, we want to assure that we shall push and ensure SRC. Mr. Speaker, you remember the President had held a meeting with all the MCS. So I hope SRC, I don't know, the chairperson of devolution, and one member, I think Senator Kalwale is here, is a member of Finance and Budget Committee. I don't know what they will do with SRC to table the recommendations that they have done on the issue of SRC salaries review and remuneration. We are not pushing that they should be increment, but they should be given capacity. Even ward officers, Mr. Speaker, as we are given liaison officers at counties. We need them, the emoluments, the issue of moving, the issue to do oversight, Mr. Speaker. And I was sad when I saw Nyamira, I chaired, and one of the part of the Nyamira County Assembly, chambers. And you know, Senator Okongo Mugeni should be nice to me. Because I ensured that when the chambers of Nyamira County Assembly collapsed, I have directed that through the Committee Public Works, Masrulu, even EACC to swing into action to ensure accountability. Mr. Speaker, the challenges counties are facing is budget performance, but this is attributed largely to delayed disbursement by the National Treasury. So we request the new CS of National Treasury to release money. The issue of impress, Mr. Speaker, we need to ensure there is proper surrender, but they are surrendering after time without interest, as per the PMF Act. The issue of ethnic composition, you find that most of the county assemblies are the conclaves, ethnic conclaves that must be relooked at. And therefore, we demand that NCIC and the county assemblies respectively should look at the composition of ethnic staff establishment, third basic salary rule, and MCA should be told that you don't take your salary, all of it. You must obey a third principle in basic salary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of county assembly and speaker's residence, Mr. Speaker, the limit has been indicated. Let's obey to that, Mr. Speaker. The issue of bending rules, and the chair has directed that county assemblies, Mr. Speaker, should abide by the resolutions, Mr. Speaker, resolutions of the issue of pending bills. So we have transmitted as a Senate that pending bills must be sought out as soon as possible, or will we, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of SOCAT, CAF, and COG, I want to advise the Council of Governors, County Assemblies Forum, and the table of clerks of the county assemblies to come up with a proposal to anchor them to law. The more they spend the resources, the money that are allocated to spend on something that has not been provided through the legal authority is illegal, unconstitutional, and immoral. And going into the future as a committee, we shall be referring this expenditure to EACC so that various officers can be surcharged and charged in court of law, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the late submission of documentation, we have noticed county assemblies have this documentation, but they continue to violate Section 65 of the Public Audit Act that recommends that any entity on the period of audit, that circle that the OAG goes, Mr. Speaker, should be given documents in time. So, Speaker, as we review the budget, I want to ask the people who allocate budget, especially us and the National Assembly, to give more resources to Office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, if Auditor General was not functioning, and the biggest challenge, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say this, and you will add me a minute, is that we need to resource OAG to visit projects. Mr. Speaker, what we are getting as a committee are narratives about Garissa, about Nandi, about Kakamega. We need to empower OAG to go to Nyamira and look at the county assembly of Nyamira with the public works and give us the, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I'm proposing as the chair, your colleague, the Speaker, is the chair of Liaison. We need even Public Accounts Committee and PIC to be given more resources to do county visits. Because when we went to Isiolo, we are yet to visit Kakamega. Other counties, we make more impact because we are able to look at it, Mr. Speaker. When the governor of Marsabit appeared, there was an issue of a building issue. Was it the issue of fish or something was said? He was telling us that it has been submerged by water. So how can we verify? We need as the county the committee to go and visit and look at it. When you come to Nandi, the governor, when it is in public accounts, he says new mother and baby unit of Kapsabet is complete. But I pass there every day. But if today the Public Accounts Committee was to visit Nyamira, to visit Nandi, to visit Kakamega, to visit Karisa, and we look at the projects one by one, Mr. Speaker, we will not be entertaining such narratives, Mr. Speaker. I want to encourage the House to take a decisive action. Mr. Speaker, going into the future, just that 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, 1 minute to conclude.
Yes. And that is why I'm pushing, Mr. Speaker, let us give more funds to public accounts. Let us go to Turkana, Mr. Speaker. Turkana is a hardship area. 110 billion cannot be accounted for 10 years. Yet there is hunger in Turkana. There is insufficient water in Turkana. Irrigation projects have collapsed, Mr. Speaker. Somebody sank 200 million to build a governor's residence that does not exist. 1.5 billion was built in our headquarters, Mr. Speaker. 82 million was given to AC that is not functional. 6.5 million was made into a generator that does not exist, Mr. Speaker. And the EACC are doing nothing about it. The culprit is walking around, is in the protected area, Mr. Speaker. So we must, as a House, take a position, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would go on and become emotional because I feel bad, just like the senators, because we fight here to allocate money to counties. But we don't see value for that money. Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks to allow my colleagues, I beg to second and I thank you.
Honorable Senators, I will now propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Select Committee on County Public Accounts on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of West Pokot County Assembly for the financial year 2018-2019 and reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Isiolo, Kiambu, Kitui, Marsabit, Narok, Nyamira, Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, Muranga County Assemblies for the financial year 2019-2020, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 7th March 2024. Honorable Senators, you will now be making your contribution. We'll start with Senator Boni Kalwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the importance of this particular report is such that I was expecting the entire House to be here. We are talking about the mother of oversight. There can be no oversight without the Public Accounts Committee, without the Public Investments Committee. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, using very strong words, I want to congratulate this committee for this commendable report. Mr. Speaker, the work that this committee is doing is so sensitive and so attractive to the public that little do you miss an item in the media about the work of this committee. And Senator Kajwang, as I congratulate the entire team, I also have personal congratulations for you. You are not only doing a good job in this House, but you're also doing a good job in the committee, and it looks like doing a good job is the other name of leadership in Homa Bay. Yes, I know all governors have got challenges, but when a governor makes an effort, we must accept. Governor Gladys Wanga, just like her senator, she's also put her best foot forward. Mr. Speaker, a comment by the chair of this committee captured me, I think, a few days ago in respect of a house in Mandera. He told me that he came across a house, a residential house, that had been built for 285 million shillings. I have tried to imagine how, I don't know, was it 12 bedrooms, 20 bedrooms, 58 bedrooms? That house of 285 million shillings. I really want to find time to go and read the entire report on that house, because we must not allow this kind of wastage of public resources that a governor can spend 285 million shillings on building a house. 285 million shillings can actually build a hospital, 60 to 80 bed hospital you can construct using that kind of money. Mr. Speaker, it is sad, but that is for another day. Having said that, Chair, allow me to comment on the adoption of this report. It has got my eye that the adoption of the report did not attract the signature of Senator Edwin Sifuna, Senator Omar Mariam, Senator Richard Onyonga, and Senator Samson Cherargei. Why? Were they descending? And if they were descending, where is the reason why they descended? We want to encourage members of committees to attend committees and be part of the deliberation of those committees. And if they have no time, Mr. Speaker, I'm not casting any aspersions. Let them give room for other members who will have time for such an important.
Senator Boni Kalwale, would you want to be informed by Senator Cherargei?
I was going to refuse, but when I looked at his age, being a young man, I said, he's very close to the Gen Z. I better be informed here rather than on the streets.
Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, you know, my Senator Kalwale is a very senior person, and I cautiously inform him, because he's a man full of wisdom, by saying in our committee, through the guidance of the chair, we normally use subcommittees to chair, especially county assembly. So you might find the colleagues who have not signed this report were in another subcommittee, because we are 3-3, and most he appoints another person to chair another county assembly. I chair some of the county assembly. So I request for your indulgence, but maybe with this guidance and the standing orders, you should be able to advise us when you don't sit in that subcommittee what happens during the adoption. I thank you, Chair.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker, that is a housekeeping issue which I will leave to the chairman to manage. But as far as the House is concerned, this is the report. This is not the report of a subcommittee, and therefore I would have wanted to know the reason why the other members didn't sign if they were having a dissenting view. Allow me bragging rights, Mr. Chairman of the committee. You have had very good words for the County Assembly of Kakamega, and like you, I want to congratulate the chair, Kelvin Mahelo, the MCA of Chakula Butadi, for being a very good chair for this committee in Kakamega. He had started getting lost, Mr. Chairman. You remember my conversation with you. And I quickly called him, and I told him, that is not the way to go. He asked me, what are you talking about? I told him, even if you don't have the capacity or you have not reflected on the meaning of oversight of the Senate, at least go to the ruling and respect the ruling of the Supreme Court, which pronounced itself that this work must be done by the Senate. Mr. Speaker, there is something that we can learn from each other. It is not by chance that the County Assembly of Kakamega is doing this work. Mr. Chairman, I deliberately addressed the County Assembly of Kakamega and emphasized the role of oversight when I addressed the Assembly. And what's more, I created 12 breakout committee meetings in my home in Malinya, where I was reserving up to 4 to 6 hours with MCS from every constituency. I have got 12 constituencies, and during this time, I was emphasizing to them the importance of oversight vis-a-vis the risk of sycophancy. And I'm glad that they have taken it up, and it is the way to go. Going to the substantive issues raised, I am very impressed that the committee has been thorough, and in particular, when I look at the actual issues, Mr. Speaker, I noticed that the committee was able to flag out the important issue of spending money on items that don't exist in the budget. And you raised, committee members, the issue of unbudgeted for payments, where you found that 1 million shillings had been given to the council, the forum for assemblies, the county assembly forum, and that $500,000 had been given to the clerks at the table. That you have recommended that these people be surcharged demonstrates the seriousness of this exercise. The public is not going to lose these 1.5 million shillings. The 1.5 million is going to be recovered through surcharge. Mr. Speaker, I also notice on specific issues that the committee went and focused on cash flows from operating activities. You put these county assemblies to task, and I'm happy that, Mr. Speaker, the matter was resolved. Then comes the issue of pending bills. Mr. Speaker, whereas this matter of pending bills was resolved, we need during this debate to remind county assemblies that pending bills should never exist because of the structure of the PFM Act. The PFM Act is grafted in such a manner that you can only give out a tender for a project that you already have a budget. So, if you have given out a tender to a project you have a budget, it means at the end of the project, the budget will simply be expended on paying the contractors. There should never be a pending bill. The fact that there are pending bills in these county assemblies, Mr. Speaker, means that money which was budgeted for particular projects and programs is then diverted and taken to things that were never put in the budget. We must sound this to accounting officers in the county assemblies. Secondly, it is not a question of my region. It is not a question of my community. It is not a question of my county. We must encourage accounting officers to identify contractors from those counties. Not because of denying people from contractors from outside the county an opportunity to participate, but for the important reason that if we are talking about Homa Bay, we are talking about Turkana, we are talking about projects in Kakamega. When you allow local contractors to partake of these particular tenders, Mr. Speaker, then at the end of the contract, the project is complete, it remains in Homa Bay. And if the contractor was from Homa Bay, when you pay him, the money remains in Homa Bay. The risk of allowing these millions of shillings to be given contractors from outside Homa Bay, outside Kakamega, outside Turkana, is that the money leaves the CRF account to the contractor, and that day or the following day, it leaves the county of Homa Bay, county of Turkana, county of Kakamega, and migrates to go to where the contractor was coming from. So it does not circulate in the economy of the local county, and therefore there is capital flight. Look, if you pay this man who has built a market in Khaega, and the man comes from Kakamega, this guy makes a profit of 30 million shillings. Mr. Speaker, this guy, even if he ends up building a house for himself in his home, the local contractors of that home will be from that home, and the money will circulate in that place. Those contractors will pay school fees for their children. That money will be in that county. We must discourage, because there are contracts going on in all the 47 counties. Mr. Speaker, the committee has spoken to the issue of incomplete fixed asset register. I allowed you, and I'm glad that you have remained hawk-eyed. You flagged it out, although it was resolved. And
would you want to be informed by Senator Kejwang?
Yes, I would like him to inform me, especially in view of the accolades that I gave him at the beginning of my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to inform the Senator on that point, and actually the House, that Narok County Assembly has managed to secure a title deed for the land on which the Assembly sits. And the rest of the county assemblies are still struggling with it. And that's part of the asset management. And that's why it's going to be a query in all the county assemblies. And I want to encourage each individual senator to help the county assembly to acquire a title deed to the land on which the assemblies sit, because they are not supposed to be squatters on county executive land. In some counties, you find that they're squatters on national government land, And I encourage assemblies to look at what Narok did. They are landlords, they have the title deed in the name of County Assembly of Narok. And I know Senator Bass is still dealing with the issue of transfer of assets and liabilities. So I just wanted to inform the governor from the context of assets that even Kakamega County Assembly needs to have its title deed.
Senator Kajang, are you informing the governor or the Senate of Kakamega?
Is being...
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. Governor shall be 2027. For now, Senator.
Thank you. Speaker, be so informed. He has informed you after informing me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having congratulated the committee for flagging out the issue and resolving the issue of fixed assets, there's something I want to say about fixed assets. Chair, try and put further pressure to the leadership of our county assemblies. We want to see the fixed asset called the debate chamber in all our 47 counties. If you go to Kilifi, for example, if you go to Mandera County, for example, and quite a number of other counties, they have put up modern debate chambers, a good fixed asset. But there is no justification. Why, despite having these billions of shillings, county assemblies in certain counties have not constructed chambers? Mr. Speaker, it's very annoying that in the county assembly of Kakamega, there is no fixed asset called the debate chamber. If you were to visit the chair, you would be shocked. The building where they are debating from is the same building that was constructed in 1930s by the colonialists when they were practicing governance in Kakamega. It's a ramshackle, it's a useless thing. We must put pressure under the county government of Kakamega to ensure that they construct a modern chamber. Mr. Speaker, there are other matters that were also flagged out by the committee, including budget control and performance, and I'm glad, Mr. Speaker, that these issues have been resolved. Having spoken to these issues, I want to conclude by speaking to only two other issues. The Office of the Auditor General. We should never fail to congratulate them, because without them, we cannot be where we are. They are our main resource team that gives us the quality reports that we use to put these governors and speakers and clerks to account. And there should be no excuses, because today the Office of the Auditor General is properly resourced. They have even put up regional hubs, and we expect them to work. If their problem is because of devolution, they have a challenge of staff, they must come to us as Parliament so that we give them more money, because without these audit reports, governance can never succeed. Finally, but not least, the ESCC. ESCC time has now come. The Public Accounts Committee has been sending you reports, asking you to take actions, and we have seen nothing. ESCC, you cannot start pretending that you want to supervise how we do legislation here. Even telling and misleading the country that we were involved in a piece of legislation here that watered down the oversight role or watered down your work. A lie. Total lies. We expect the ESCC to work. And ESCC, if you don't work, if you choose to engage in politics, the way I saw you running after the distinguished Senator of Marsabit, if you have problems with the Senator of Marsabit, don't call the media. That is a channel that you use as ESCC. ESCC does not conduct its business through the media. It should have been the media reporting that you have been found either at the office of the Senator of Marsabit or at his home. You have found he has stolen money and you are dealing with him. But for you to call a press conference and start catwalking, no. EACC, that was not the intentions of Chapter 15 commissions in the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. It is this careless approach by heads of certain institutions to conduct himself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Are you please 1 minute? Yes.
One minute to conclude.
Thank you,
Senator.
Mr. Speaker. With a lot of meaning, it is also this poor conduct by heads of institutions that cause confusions amongst the youth until the youth think they should come and storm this parliament. If anybody had properly guided our youth, Mr. Speaker, the youth, if they had chosen to storm this parliament, they would not have come to the Senate. They would have gone to the National Assembly. The finance bill does not go through the Senate. The finance bill that almost cost us lose this house goes to the National Assembly. So they should have gone to the National Assembly. In fact, I want them to put pressure under the National Assembly. If the Gen Z should come back again, Gen Z, please go to the National Assembly. Don't come to this Senate. In fact, thanks to this Senate, Mr. Speaker, we have been able to get a compromise position that...
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mogeni, Eric.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by thanking the mover of this motion, son of Rose Auma Ajuang, and Mr. David Ajuang Nyakwamba of Omabay. I hope I got the names right. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, if you are one of the senators who normally appear when your governor appears before the committee or led by Senator of Homa Bay, Senator Kajwang, you'll always feel the joy that Senator Kajwang is the chair of that committee because of the understanding of the issues, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank Senator Kajwang for the good work he has done for us as senators, as chair of a Public Accounts Committee. Mr. Speaker, if you didn't know, most governors normally send inquiries to know who will be chairing. Is it Senator Kajwang or there will be somebody else? If they confirm he is Senator Kajwang, they try to prepare because they know he has a good grasp and understanding of the issues. Senator Kajwang, we are proud of you. And we are really proud of the good work you are doing and the effort you have put in place to ensure that there is accountability from our governors. Mr. Speaker, it's also under his watch that we were able to incorporate an officer, I hope I'm right there, from EACC to sit through the sittings of Senator Kajwang's committee so that EACC can get first-hand the wanton thefts that take place at counties. That was innovative, and we really thank you, Senator Kajwang. And he's also a very good-hearted person, Senator Kajwang. Mr. Speaker, I was bereaved sometimes last year in my ward of Bosamaro, Mr. Speaker. And I was surprised, Mr. Speaker, during the funeral to see Senator of Homa Bay walk in to come and bereave with the Mogeni family. I had lost my uncle, Mzee Auka Mogeni, father of Dr. Evans Omwangarita, and Senator Kajwang attended the funeral to bereave with us. So at a personal level, he's also a very kind-hearted person. So we are glad to have you as our senator, and we really pray that the people of Homa Bay will continue sending you back to the Senate so that you can continue serving us. Now, on the report from the county of Homa Bay, of Nyamira, Mr. Speaker, I want to bring it to the attention of the House, Mr. Speaker, that all the issues that were raised by the Auditor General remain unresolved, sadly, Mr. Speaker. The county headquarters that remained incomplete when these reports were issued by the Auditor General on 30th of June 2020 remain incomplete up to now. Mr. Speaker, I speak with a heavy heart because last time the County Assembly of Nyamira appeared before the committee that is led by Senator Kajuan, it was a debacle, Mr. Speaker. It was like a comedy, Mr. Speaker. The information that was tendered through a report that was signed by the County Public Service Board that indicated that they had made payments to the tune of 150 million did not get the concurrence of the accounting officer, the clerk of the County Assembly of Nyamira. And it raised doubts, Mr. Speaker, as to whether somebody in the County Assembly has embezzled over 40 million shillings. Because the accounting officer, the clerk of the County Assembly of Nyamira, was categorical that he could not confirm that that payment was made to the contractor, Mr. Speaker. And it is regrettable, Mr. Speaker, that after the committee directed that the County Public Service Board should ensure that he gets back his role as accounting officer, he was instead, Mr. Speaker, suspended by the County Public Service Board. You can see the level of impunity, Mr. Speaker, that is cropping up in this country, Mr. Speaker. And that's happening after the issues have come to the fore. Recommendations have been made by the committee chaired by Senator Kajua that EACC should move in, do investigations, and arrest the culprit. And I'm sorry to say, Mr. Speaker, that instead of EACC, parading Senator Chute in their offices, how I wish they could go for a case like this, Mr. Speaker, where clearly public money to the tune of 40 million shillings have been lost, Mr. Speaker. And the accounting officer has appeared before the Senate of the Republic of Kenya and confirmed that they cannot account how that money has been spent, Mr. Speaker. I have worked in that body called EACC. I know the CEO, Mr. Speaker. I want to plead with him, Mr. Speaker, to take issues that are raised by the Senate of the Republic of Kenya seriously, to take issues that are raised by the Auditor General seriously, Mr. Speaker, to take serious issues that are raised by the Controller of Budget, Mr. Speaker. I have no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that the members of a committee that is led by Senator Kajua don't manufacture the auditor reports, the reports that come from the Auditor General. That is a public office that has got no interest. I don't think, Mr. Speaker, from all these counties that are listed here, County of Isiolo, Kiambu, Kitui, Marsabit, Narok, Nyamira, Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, Murang'a, I don't think the Auditor General has any personal interest in these counties, other than discharging our constitutional role on looking at the expenditure of funds that are sent to these counties, Mr. Speaker. I don't think the control of budget has an intention of vying for position of governor in any of these counties. Neither does Senator Kajuang. He doesn't want to move to Nyamira and run for governor, Mr. Speaker. He just wants, Mr. Speaker, money that goes to the county government of Nyamira to be spent for the benefit of the people who reside in Nyamira County, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, without accountability, Mr. Speaker, we will convert counties to avenue where people enrich themselves, Mr. Speaker. It's not right that year in, year out, the Auditor General generates reports that raise issues of financial improprieties in our counties, but you don't see any action, Mr. Speaker. The issue that was raised on conflict of interest law that came to the Senate, Mr. Speaker, we did not mutilate the conflict of interest law. All we did, Mr. Speaker, is to remind Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission that those offenses that they are trying to create in the conflict of interest legislation are already captured in other pieces of legislation, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I can even table evidence before the Senate to demonstrate that there are a number of governors who are already in court charged with the offense of conflict of interest in line with Section 42 of the Economic and Anti-Corruption Act, Mr. Speaker. The former governor of Samburu is already facing a court case on conflict of interest, Mr. Speaker. The former governor of the county government of Nairobi is already in court, charged under Section 42 of the anti-corruption legislation on conflict of interest, Mr. Speaker. The former governor of Kiambu, who was impeached by this House, is already facing charges in courts of law, again on breach of that Section 42. So it's not right for EACC to create the impression that we are trying to weaken legislations dealing with corruption. In fact, Mr. Speaker, where I would like to work with EACC is how can we, as a Senate or as a collective parliament of the Republic of Kenya, fast-track conclusion of investigations on cases touching on corruption. On that one, I would like to partner with EACC, Mr. Speaker. How we ensure that there is speedy conclusion of cases touching on corruption offenses are heard and concluded within the statutory period of 6 months, Mr. Speaker. That way, we'll be genuinely responding to a matter that is of concern to most of us. Because how can it be right, Mr. Speaker, that despite the good work that the committee has done, despite the investigations that have been undertaken by EACC, despite the decision that has been made by the DPP to prosecute governors who have been involved in corruption, Mr. Speaker, there is not even one conviction. Cases that were taken to court in 2019 are still pending in court in the year 2024, Mr. Speaker. You witnessed the trial of the former president of the United States of America. It was on CNN, we all watched. In a record period of 10 days, the case was presented before the court, evidence taken, and a verdict delivered. Maybe we need to as a country, to re-examine whether we need to take the jury system, if that's what will help us, Mr. Speaker, in having, faster hearing and conclusion of corruption cases. Without deterrence, Mr. Speaker, we'll convert this House into rewriting the book of lamentations. We cannot be coming here every now and then. We get good report from a committee led by Senator Kajwang, but all we do is lamentation. Mr. Speaker, I was watching yesterday my governor, my good friend Governor Nyaribo, Mr. Speaker. He appeared before the committee of Senator Kajwang, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, one of the issues that were being investigated by the committee, or one of the issues that came to the attention of the committee, Mr. Speaker, was a fraudulent payment of 6.5 million that the governor made to himself, Mr. Speaker. And when questioned, Mr. Speaker, I said, yes, I fraudulently paid myself. And the payslip was there. But he said, you know, quietly, me and the EACC, we entered into an out-of-court settlement, and I agreed to refund the money quietly. So this money has quietly been refunded, so I'm okay now. So yesterday he was saying, if I am a criminal, why hasn't EACC arrested me? You know? Mr. Speaker, there is what we call a trickle-down effect. If EACC walks to Nyamira and finds that a governor has fraudulently paid himself 6.5 million, you settle that quietly under the table. What will other members of staff serving below the governor do? Because you have set a precedent. You have said, if you are caught, you should talk EACC, you settle, and you are left scot-free. Mr. Speaker, I'm a lawyer, and a senior lawyer. That's not how the criminal justice system works. Mr. Speaker, the criminal justice system says that if you steal public money, you belong to the jails. Mr. Speaker, if you have stolen public money, you have been caught, and you have admitted, then you have breached Chapter 6. You are unfit to occupy public office. And Mr. Speaker, so that we are seen as a house that is objective, Mr. Speaker, I'll be pleading with this house that we have EACC summoned here, Mr. Speaker. Oh.
Thank you, Senator Mugeni. When this debate resumes, you'll have a time remaining of 5 minutes to conclude your submission. Honorable Senators, it is now 1 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 31st July 2024 at 2:30 p.m.